Welcome to the family with
Co-host Catherine Brandt.
Andy Brant Bernard.
And Kristen Burt.
See, what could be more pleasant? That's all I have to say. Kristen Burt Entertainment News is brought to you by North American Banking Company. Go to nabanco.com to learn more. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. So, Kath and I watched The Pit last night. Well, it's nothing like every other medical emergency room
they are kind
show
of all the
ever.
same.
It's what's his face from ER, right?
Noah Wiley, yep.
Yeah. Jeez.
The same. They've had about 10 series, and they're all exactly the same.
They kind of are.
I
They
feel
do
like
very well.
This one feels more like a reality show, almost kind of. It feels like it's more
realistic.
in real time, kind of. Yeah, the way
Isn't
they
it supposed to be like
shot it.
24 except medical?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. And there's one particular pediatrician who works in an ER that I follow on social media, and she said it is to the T of what it's like to actually work there. She said it's pretty
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah, just their waiting room gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
I'd be
Yeah.
like, I'll just go die on the street. I'm not doing this.
You're like,
I
this is
can't
not
do
it.
No.
They must have a real good medical consultant on that set, though, because that's what keeps it real. I mean, you can't just have a bunch of Hollywood writers come in and go,
Yeah.
okay, this is what I think an ER looks like. You need
Right.
someone who has real life experience in the AR.
I want to do a second season of The Pit where it's 24 hours of the least eventful day in ER history.
There you go.
Then
Like
everybody's
three
making a
people come
TikTok
in,
video.
one of them leaves because they're like, oh, actually, I feel fine.
They do track those things, like what statistically are their slowest days and what statistically
they sure do. They
days,
know.
which I think is interesting.
All right, before we move on, I got to ask you this question because it makes me very, very sad because you're such a good guy. I used to have him on the show all the time. A world famous forensic pathologist thinks Gene Hackman died from a cardiac arrest and his wife died trying to get him his medication either by falling and hitting her head or having a heart attack.
What? How
That's
crazy.
terrible.
What about
That'd be
the
a
dog in the
very big-
closet?
Well, the dog was in the closet for weeks. He probably starved.
But why is the dog in the closet?
I mean, if you're trying to open up a bottle of pills with your dying husband, maybe just shove the dog in the closet so it leaves you alone for now, and then
Yeah, maybe.
There's been mixed stories about the dog too. They misidentified it as a German Shepherd, and it wasn't one of the German Shepherds.
okay.
So I'm wondering, and we've heard again mixed reports on this, that the dog was possibly in a crate. So if the dog was in a crate and couldn't get out or had no access to food or
Yeah,
water,
exactly.
maybe a possibility,
God. Remind me to
Yep.
have somebody check us every couple of days.
right?
Yeah, I
It's
know.
really awful
make
to think
sure.
about. And I saw another expert speak on it, and they were saying they believe that their deaths are within the same timeline. They don't think that necessarily like one died and then another died 3 days later or anything else like that. It's within that sort of window.
Just
that'd be
too much
quite
of
the
a-
coincidence. If
Yeah,
she had a
that's what I
heart
think.
attack right after her husband had a heart attack, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Falling and hitting her head, I can see.
Yeah.
Now that's bad luck, but
I'm wondering,
it
like the space heater, did that have anything to do with it? I know that they said there wasn't, was there a head injury that I don't know.
it would be weird to have a space heater with you in the bathroom. It's like, how warm
I
do you
don't-
need to be?
Oh, I think that's pretty common. At least here on the West Coast, it's pretty common to have a space heater in the bathroom.
Huh.
We are not insulated. We are
right.
not prepared
Close.
for winter whatsoever. So a lot of people will move a space heater around with them, and especially when you jump out of the shower, oftentimes you get very cold. That doesn't like seem out of the norm for me.
I just think it's weird. I mean, I really do. I
Well,
The
mean,
whole
you-
story
they
is
can-
weird.
Yeah, they can look for blunt force trauma. I mean, if you fall and hit your head hard.
Well,
enough,
yeah, they'll be able to tell if she hit her head. They'll just have
Yeah.
to do an autopsy is the thing. They haven't done that yet.
Yeah, they're doing autopsy and toxicology, and both will take several weeks.
Well, we knew a guy that fell downstairs and died, and they wouldn't even do an autopsy because he was over 50. They're like, "Oh, you're old. We don't care how you die."
Over 50s?
50. Well,
Whoops.
can you
But
put
I'm
your
guessing
mic
since
closer?
they're famous, they might get an autopsy. I don't know.
Mic closer.
Wouldn't you? I guess you have to. Could you request an autopsy, or have to pay privately for an autopsy?
I don't know how.
Probably.
You
If you
can,
pay for it,
you can
they'll
get a
do
private autopsy, yeah. I don't know how it works with the state. Like if you can be like, hey, give us an autopsy. I don't think so though. I think if you want an autopsy in that case, you have to pay someone to do it.
Isn't that amazing that you pay all this money for health insurance and Blue Cross and Blue Shield and this and that, and
Nobody cares.
nobody cares. They just
Nobody
don't
cares.
care. It's just gotten to the point, it just amazes me that things are the way they are. People and money, all that they care about now is money. And if, by the way, anybody, whether it's Biden as president or Trump as president, the people that bitch about the president, it's all about money. It's got nothing to do with politics at all. It's about how much money you have in your pocket.
Does seem that way.
I mean, it's just money. It's money, money, money. Once you get off your ass and get a job, how about that?
If you can find a job. Everyone's
you find
getting
a
laid
job?
off. I'll tell you,
Oh,
it is
God.
not funny out there at all. So many people are getting laid off in the private sector, probably equaling what we're hearing about the public sector. And people are out of work for over a year now and still can't get a job. I mean, they're getting what you would say, jobs to pay some of the bills, but the job with the health insurance and the benefits, that's not happening.
Well, they've found out it's so expensive to even have employees. And, with cutting out office space and everything else, they're finding
Yep.
out that they can run a corporation with much less overhead if they just cut
Or
out all
AI.
those things.
Yeah.
Or AI.
Well, yeah, we looked into starting a hardware store maybe even more than 2 years ago at this point. And we had everything basically ready to go, but then we had to do the calculations of, like the revenue calculations, how much money we'd expect to pull in and
Right.
expect to, pay out. And even with like 3 employees, it was completely unaffordable. There was no way the business could possibly work
Really?
because there's just so many expenses. I mean, you have to do like payroll taxes, and you have to do employee health care, and there's a
Yeah.
bunch of just little things. And we were like, this is not possible.
Yeah. And in
Business
Minnesota-
insurance.
Yeah.
Yep.
In Minnesota, they're doing that lots of extra taxes. That whole
Yep.
an employee can take 6 weeks off at a time if they're distressed or
Yep,
have
exactly.
PTSD, up to 3 times a year or something
Yeah,
like
so
that. That's another tax that we're
We would have
paying.
basically just had to run the place ourselves, and we were like,
Yeah,
we
you would
can't
have
do
to.
this.
Not with
Do
little
you
kids,
think-
too.
No.
And by the way, if anybody thinks this is just on one side of the coin, they're nuts, because you can look at it. Do you think we're eventually going to make all these politicians answer for how they're all worth somewhere between 75 and 150 million dollars?
No, because they'll just vote against looking into that.
Where's all the money? Where did that all that money come from? I mean, they're adding to the list every single day people worth 60 million, 75 million, 150 million. Why? How did we ever let them get away with that? I just don't understand it.
Nobody's minding the store.
Why?
And I feel like it's politics where people are making the most money. Because here in Hollywood, I was
yeah.
just thinking about this the other day because a lot of reality shows were coming into play. And I'm like, these actors are not making money in TV and film. So they're doing commercials. Jennifer Aniston's doing a popcorn commercial.
Yeah, right.
Jennifer Aniston, who made all this money on Friends, I sit there and I see Denise Richards and she's doing another reality show. Alec Baldwin doing a reality show. This is the way they are sustaining their life because they need to pay the bills. It's not about, hey, I'll do one film a year now and make a whole
Right.
bunch of money and then rest. They can't do
Right.
that anymore.
No.
Well, they could. They just choose not to.
Well,
They
could
can't.
live. They could
It is-
live not as large, I'm sure.
They could live not as large. Alec Baldwin, he's got legal bills up the wazoo. So we do know
Right,
something
right.
like that. But someone like Denise Richards, no longer at the peak of her career and never was someone who was, say, a Nicole Kidman type of actress.
Right.
So where's her avenue? Where's her lane? She has to sit there. She's doing OnlyFans, by the way. And she's doing a reality show to sustain her lifestyle.
Wow. Ay, ay, ay.
I would just like to know why it is that these politicians, and again, it's on both sides or all sides, or I guess they're just not Republicans, Democrats, there might be other things, all the rest of it. But you have to understand something. You represent us. This is not your show, it's our show. So I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, you sit there with your hands on your lap and your knees crossed and not make a chirp. Get off your ass and do your job. You don't get to decide when you go silent. And again, that's on both sides of the aisle. I'm sick to death of it.
Time to take to the streets, Tom. It's a
What's that?
revolution. Let's do it.
It works for me. I'll be right up front.
I'll make
I am
signs.
sick to death of these people. They're all multi-millionaires. They don't do anything but grandstand. And I just love this whole argument too. We're going to bring more people in. Why? So you control the vote completely? That's what that's all about. It's all about controlling the vote 100%, bringing everybody in, kicking everybody out. It's on both sides, and I can't take it anymore. I really can't.
Well, then we should watch that golf show that Kristen told us to watch.
Yes, we
Yes.
did. We watched episode 1.
A
That
full
was really
swing.
good.
Now, did you go back to season 1?
Season 1,
Yep.
episode 1
Okay,
is the
Yep.
only one we
great.
saw.
I'm really excited for you guys to watch it because season 1 and season 2 play into that dynamic with live golf versus the PGA. And
Right.
Yeah, they're just touching on that was okay. So was this filmed 3 years ago, the first one? Or
The
is it
first one was
longer?
probably filmed 4-ish years ago. I feel
Yeah.
like they were
Okay, so
coming
the
out of
live
that.
golf was kind of a new thing. So they were touching on that people were going there, and then there were some. It probably is addressed more in the first season that they didn't know where the money was coming from, and it was Saudi Arabia, and they were like a little bit like, "What's happening?"
Controversial,
here?"
and it plays out through the first season, and it's
Okay.
the elephant in the room. Let's put it that way. You know, they're like, this is golf, but the elephant in the room is like, now that the Saudis are, investing in golf, and certain players are moving over, and then there's
Right.
certain players who are like, no, you have to be loyal to the PGA, and it's really interesting to see how the players handle it and the dynamic, and it continues. That theme continues into season 2.
Well, the first episode was about two golfers that have been playing together since they were kids. And one, I don't remember what he won at the end. He won some major someplace. I don't remember the name of
Right.
the major. And his friend placed like 60th. And he won, the one guy won over $2 million, and the other guy got like $60,000 or something like that. And they both put in the same amount of time. It cost them the same amount to have the trainers and the this and the that. And of course, they had a private jet, so somebody's doing pretty well. I don't know. Maybe they just sponsor that for them. I don't have any idea how that works. But yeah, it was fun to see a professional golfer, like shoot a 7. I'm like, I know how to do that.
I could shoot at 10. Just watch me.
I do have to add this, the moment of sadness for me, though, in watching that is the Tiger Woods doesn't even matter anymore.
No.
That breaks my heart. It was like when Jack Nicklaus went away. That was very, very hard. And I'm sure people back before him, back in the golfing days, but see Jack go away, and now Tiger Woods really doesn't matter anymore. And that's
He does, though. He's got a son who is coming up through the
Yeah,
ranks.
that's true, but not him
And-
personally.
No, but I think that plays into the human interest story of it all.
Yeah.
As his son, starts to move through the ranks. And I know they've played some like father son tournaments. I think they play it once a
Right,
year or whatever.
right.
I find that fascinating to see, because
old is he?
Tiger, how old is his son? I want to say like 15.
Yeah, I
16.
think that's about
16?
right.
Okay.
Just turned 16.
Okay, great. So it's so interesting to me because we saw Tiger and his dad, on his dad was forcing him into the limelight and on all the talk shows, like that little clip you see of him on the Merv Griffin show, I think. And then you see his rise and how differently Tiger is treating his son than maybe how his dad did, because obviously I feel like Tiger got burnt out at a certain point and that played into his personal
Oh,
life.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, going all the way back to, obviously, it was long before us, but Arnold Palmer was adored by everyone back in his day. And like I said, Jack Nicklaus, one of the great golfers of all time, Tiger Woods. It's as time passes, you see these great figures that, yes, they're still around. Jack Nicklaus is still around, and so is obviously Tiger Woods, but they're not part of the mix anymore. They play, but it's like,
Well, it's who's winning is,
Yeah,
everybody
who's
wants
winning
to
is the
see.
big deal.
headline. But I think it's interesting when people kind of stay in the game or stay around it. I think of like tennis and someone like Billie Jean King, who was always had her hands still in the game somehow. She's not playing anymore, but she's become like a leader in that sector for women's tennis. And I think that hopefully some of the golfers will stick around and be in those leadership positions, whether it's broadcasting, whether it's, part of the players union or anything else like that.
Well, Tiger Woods invested in this miniature golf situation.
Oh, yeah,
Over
there's
here,
one.
there's one over
Yep.
by the Palm Beach International Airport. I think
Right.
it's called Pop Golf or something.
I think it is Pop Golf. I think
Pop
you're right.
Golf.
And it's supposed to be something that you can like join a club, and there's bars and there's this and there's that. It's not just miniature golf, but we should go over there one of these days and check it out.
It'd be a
Yeah,
good
give us a
idea.
review, you
Just for-
guys.
I
Like,
know, that would be
video
fun.
it.
Yeah, it's right. It's really close to our house, and it's right next to one of those golf things. It's not. What's the name of that thing where you sit in a bay and you
Top
hit-
golf.
It's not Top Golf. It's another one, and I don't know if Tiger Woods is involved with that.
Yeah, there's word that he is, but I don't know if he is
Big
for sure.
Shots. X Golf. Drive Shack.
Drive Shack,
There's
there
a
you
Drive
go.
Shack
Shack.
right over by the
Yep.
miniature golf place, and I don't know if Tiger Woods is involved in that. I mean, you would think that he would be.
It's like an entertainment center
Yeah.
type of. Yeah, that's what they're trying to do with movie theaters too. Is just build an entertainment center around them so people spend the day golfing, playing pickleball, going to the movies, going out to dinner, because that is what is driving families back to the theater.
We probably better take a break here. I just looked up at
Yeah.
the clock, and my God, you only got 10 more minutes. Big shot that you are.
So fancy.
We will be right back. More with Kristen Burt right after this. From Bradshaw and Bryant, Michael Bryant. What's up, Allie?
Oh, not much. Doing my usual thing of telling people they shouldn't be texting and driving. In Minnesota, you can't have your phone in your hands. You can use, hands free, but you can't have your phone in your hands for whatever reason. And that's why they made the law the way they did, so that police officers could see a phone in your hand and you got no excuse for why you got it there.
Do people know that that's the law?
I hope so. I mean, they used to follow it, and then kind of COVID kind of made people forget. And now it's like a freewheeling world out there with cell phones.
Let's say you get pulled over because you do have a phone in your hand and you're not watching where you're going. You got to be in pretty big trouble then, I would guess.
Well, the first one's not as bad. It's the multiple ones, the problem. And once people start stacking them up, then they have a big problem. And then what we're doing in car accidents is we've started bringing motions for punitive damages, because I'm trying to use the civil law any way we can to stop this, because it needs to stop.
Whenever I'd had any problems in my life, who was that I called again? It was like an MB, something like that.
Bradshaw and Bryant.
Does thinking about retirement make you uncomfortable? Sometimes the anxiety for wondering if you've saved enough can be overwhelming. But what if I told you that you could ease those tensions in just 48 minutes? My guy, Josh Arnold, Mr. Money Talk, can sit down with you and get you on the right track for your financial future. Josh has navigated it all when it comes to uncertain market and economic conditions, and he'll always provide straight talk. Never sugar-coated advice on how to reach the finish line with your retirement goals. Don't let your financial worries give you an ulcer or keep you from calling Josh right now. His 48-minute no-obligation consultation could be just what you need to feel better about your future. Call Josh today at 952-925-5608. Set up your free 48-minute no-obligation consultation. That's 952-925-5608. Investment services offered by Josh Arnold Investment Consultant, LLC Security Investment Advisor. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All investments must involve risk. You know that. All comments and opinions of Josh Arnold do not constitute investment advice. I am a paid endorser.
And the baby looks around him and shares his therapy.
Kristen Bird Entertainment News brought to you by North American Banking Company. Go to nabanco.com to learn more. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. All right, so what were we doing now? We're going to do something?
We were talking about
Golf.
golf. Yeah, Nick Swartzen was in town, and we saw him
Yeah.
several times while he was here, and he was so mad that this area down not too far from us, what used to be called City Place, and then they rebranded it the Square, and everybody hated that, so now it's City Place again. They had a really beautiful movie theater, and they just tore the whole complex
Yeah,
down.
they did.
It had bars and restaurants, and the comedy club was in there, and the movie theater was in there, and they tore the whole thing down, and now it's just a parking lot. Or not even a parking lot, just a empty lot.
Yep.
And Nick was so mad about that. I was like, yeah, but you know what? People just don't go to the movies anymore. I mean, the last few times we've been to the movies, the last time was Paddington Bear,
Right.
which was a horribly, terribly cold, crappy day in Minnesota. And there were a lot of kids in there. But you have to wonder if the weather had something to do with it.
Probably.
Yeah, it just people, I mean, you get everything streamed in a couple of weeks anyway, most of the time, if not right away. So the movie theater experience, I just don't know if it's worth having a big theater like that anymore. I just don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we've talked about this before. We're going to see just single houses or maybe 2 or 3 screens versus
Yeah.
the big cineplexes. We had 80s, 90s, and early aughts of where it would be 12 screens, 25
12,
screens in
yeah.
the stadium seating. It's more customized experiences. It's the, lounge chairs, it's serving the dinner, like those special experiences. And then it's the specialty houses. We have a lot of them here in Los Angeles where they're renovating the old theaters and,
Oh,
and
are
rescuing
they?
them, which is really nice. Netflix, I'm going to say something really nice about Netflix, even though they're kind of the disruptors for this type of industry. They bought out the Egyptian theater on Hollywood Boulevard and restored it. And it is stunning. And you have a modern theater with all of the classic architecture still there. And the nice thing about the Egyptian is that it has this beautiful courtyard. So you walk in off of the chaos on Hollywood Boulevard and you walk into the courtyard. Because Netflix owns it, they're doing all of their premieres there now. So now they have an event space for a red carpet, an after party, whatever they want to do. And then you go into the theater, into this gorgeous, modernized yet restored classic theater. And I love that. And I hope to see more of that.
That would be really nice. In Minnesota, they ripped most of them down, like the Cooper.
Yep.
Cooper was a beautiful theater.
It was,
That's
yeah.
long, long, long gone. And then every little town had a small theater with a pretty marquee, and those are pretty much all just broken up into spaces for stores and things.
Yeah.
I
And do
don't see
people
that
go to
coming.
stores? That's
That's
like,
very true.
I go to the grocery store, but do I go and go, I'm going to go to the Gap today? It doesn't really happen
I went to
anymore.
Marshall's yesterday, and there was like 60 people in line. I mean, that's
Marshalls
busy.
and TJ Maxx and Home Goods, forget it. That place mobbed all the time.
Mobbed, absolutely.
I don't know. It just makes me sad because this. Were you ever in that theater by chance, Kristen? The West Palm Beach. What was it called again? It's called the Palace Theater, wasn't it? Because it was built like a palace. It was definitely, and the comedy store is right next to it, and all the rest of it. What was the name of that? Andy, you remember? I mean, you've been
The
to the
Comedy
theater.
Store was the Improv, which is now located
The
in
Improv,
the
yeah.
Kravis Center, which is our
Right.
big theater.
Right.
Performing Arts Center.
Yeah, it's a beautiful facility. Yeah, I don't remember what the name of that. It was all done in like faux marble, and
It
it
was.
was
It
very,
was beautiful.
very fancy.
Yeah.
I can't remember the
And
name of it.
you had to take an escalator to get down to the ticket booths and all the rest. It was just really, really nice.
Oh,
It was
had
beautiful.
A ton of screens in there.
Like
Just
12, I
tons.
think, yeah.
Yeah. I just think 12 screens is not sustainable anymore.
No,
I think
no, not at all.
one is probably best, honestly, to just be a single screen and do specialty films. You're like, we're going to bring back Star Wars this week on the big screen. And
Yeah,
that's what you got to
yeah,
do.
right.
Well, that's what they did with the Edina Theater. They renovated that, and they turned the upstairs bar into the bar from The Shining, the
Mm-hmm.
gold bar.
Cool.
And they put in all the nice lounge chairs with heat. There's heat. So when we went there and it was 16 below zero, I was like, turn on that
Yeah.
heat.
That sounds so
good.
nice.
It was really nice. And yeah, it's what, 2 screens? I think it's only 2 screens.
I think that's right, yeah.
Maybe
That seems
3.
manageable.
Yeah, very manageable.
See, I feel kind of bad that Andy doesn't have the memories that I would have about movie theater. First of all, television was around when I was a kid. The internet changed everything, obviously. But there was the Empress Theater, and if you went to the Empress Theater on Broadway and I think about
Oh, the
Fifth
downtown one, yeah.
Street, not downtown, it was in North Minneapolis.
Oh,
Yeah, the Empress Theater.
I'm thinking of the Skyway.
It was on Plymouth Avenue, or it was on Broadway, I think. But you would go there, and before the movie even started, the owner of the theater would come in and go, I want you to know up front, if anybody in here is sneaking in beverages or treats, or you're talking during the show, you're going to have to leave right now.
You get a scolding before the movie.
Exactly.
Those
And then the
days
Broadway
of
theater, that was the
yeah.
one where all the guys from like Plymouth Avenue would show up and talk back to the screen. No matter what was being said on the screen, they would talk back to
Oh,
it.
interactive experience.
Interactive
Before it was
experience.
cool. That's funny.
But I mean, and then all the way to the Terrace Theater in Robbinsdale.
Oh,
Ooh,
the Terrace.
that was a
That
beauty.
still might be there.
No,
I
it's
thought
not.
you said the terrorist. I'm like, the
The
terrorist
Terrorist
Theater.
Theater, yes,
Terrifying.
Terrorist.
That's the first
The
movie
Terrace.
theater I ever went to was the Terrace Theater. That was another really cool old, the big screen. You
Yep.
know, it was really nice. Right
God,
behind
you're
the
right,
hospital
though.
there.
They're all gone now. They're all torn down. They're
That
all
was
gone.
sad.
Well, our,
really is.
Our friends are down here. They RV'd it. They bought an RV and they're doing Florida. They're coming up this week. Joyce was actually an usherette, I think she was called.
An usherette, yes,
I
that's
think
right.
it was a Skyway or maybe it was the Cooper. Yeah, she was. They actually had ushers. At one
That's
time.
nice.
That's funny.
Fancy.
It is
You
true.
never see that anymore.
But that was the whole deal when I was a teenage boy. If you were going to ask a girl out, it was to go to dinner and a movie.
Yep.
That's what you were going to do. I mean, that's one of the first things you and I did. And we've only been together, what now, 2-3 years?
300 years.
300 years.
I feel like the dinner and a movie date died before the pandemic, but
Yeah, it did.
But I want to say somewhere maybe around 2017, 18, maybe right around there.
Mm-hmm.
At least for even Bill and I just going like, let's go to dinner and a movie. It just started to just kind of die out.
Just there isn't a lot to see. I mean, for a while there, if you didn't want to see a Marvel movie, you weren't seeing anything.
Yeah.
A Marvel movie or a kids movie,
Yeah,
that was
that's
like
true.
it forever.
I do remember Andy and I went to a movie. Well, I can't remember what the movie was, Andy. A few years ago when you were down here.
Jumanji.
Oh, was it Jumanji?
A few years ago.
That
It was-
this was like 10 years ago, I think.
It was a
Before
while
the Rock
back.
Jumanji.
But
No,
there
this was
were
the Rock Jumanji, but
young
when did that
girl.
come out?
What's that?
Let's see, that was 2017. So yeah, that was 8 years ago
Is that
already.
8 years ago? So Andy and I are sitting there watching the movie, and they were all girls. They were not boys. They were like teenage girls that would not get off their cell phones.
Yeah.
I mean, what? And of course, it's lighting up the whole theater because the phone's all lit up in their hands. I mean, that's another thing. Why they should get their Faraday cages, and you put your phone in the Faraday cage, and when the movie's over, you can come and get it
I'll
back.
just sneak it in.
Yonder
Good.
pouch, yeah.
That
Yeah.
kind of did have. That was, I think, part of the downfall of the movies.
It was.
'Cause with the big theaters where there was just so many people in there, and they were sneaking in. They were just spending the entire day there. Teenagers were just spending they would get dropped off. They would sneak in back. They'd go into something they weren't even interested in because they didn't want to go home, and they'd sit there watching things and talking. Watching their devices. That's what they were
Yep.
doing, and it
Yep.
was so disruptive. And you didn't dare say anything.
No.
You have no idea how gangs
No,
of teens are going
not
to
a good
react
idea.
anymore. And you find somebody to come and kick them out, and that took a half an hour to 40 minutes, and just ruined the whole experience. It happened out west when we lived out west here.
Yeah.
And it happened.
Yeah,
it
it
happened
did,
at
yep.
that nice theater downtown here too. People just are rude now. I think that's part of the problem, maybe, with going out to.
And now no
theater.
one's in the theaters.
Nobody's in the theaters.
Nobody's in the theater, so you might be okay
there-
now.
Did you hear about that roof collapse?
No. Where?
Kristen, I'm sure you heard about the roof collapse in the theater, right? No? Oh, let's see. Let me get the movie correct. Roof collapse. So there was a theater, Liberty Cinema in Washington. The ceiling collapsed into the theater,
Oh, God.
and it was like a real collapse. Like the timber and everything came
Oh.
down
Oh my
right on top of the
God.
chairs. Luckily, no one was injured because they were screening Captain America: Brave New World, and there were 2 people in the theater.
Oh, God.
Oh my God, they have a nice lawsuit on their hands.
Jesus.
So, was there inclement weather leading to the roof collapse, or just a bad roof that had not been replaced?
They said the collapse was unexpected, which I would
Well,
hope
yeah,
it was
usually
unexpected.
they are.
Like some sort of Damocles situation. Come watch this movie if you dare. But no,
Yeah.
I think it just old crappy roof.
Huh.
Something, no question.
Get your money.
Yeah.
Oh God,
Two
yeah.
people.
I mean, yeah. Even
Yeah.
though no one was injured, it's like
That's
if I had been
traumatic.
sitting there, I'd be dead. Yeah. So
Yeah.
You know what else collapsed? Our time with Kristen Burt today.
What a
That has collapsed.
transition.
What do you think of that transition right there?
So good.
The collapse of Kristen Burt's time on the show.
Yep.
All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow, though.
See you all tomorrow. Have a good one. Have fun with Tiege.
yep.
Okay.
There you go. We'll get it done. Kristen Bird Entertainment News brought to you by North American Banking Company. Go to nabanco.com to learn more. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Take a break and be right back in a couple of minutes. Tiege Dooley-Panko? Tiege Dooley-Panko. And Michael Bryan hasn't shown up yet?
I don't think he's coming in at this point, but
Well,
we'll
that's
see.
too bad. I was hoping he was going to come in today, but
Maybe he comes
that
in
will
at
be
11.
fun.
I don't know.
We will be right back right after this. Why should your business bank with North American Banking Company? Here's Austin Bartz of Bartz Lawn and Landscape and Bartz Snow Sculptures.
I started banking with North American, I think 3.5 years ago. All the people know me by name. I know them by name. It's fun to come into the bank and actually talk to somebody you know. So I made the switch and I'm very happy. It's the best bank I've ever been at.
So why not bank where I bank? With my friends at North American Banking Company. To learn more about North American Banking Company, go to nabankco.com. That's nabankco.com, or do what I do and stop by any one of their 6 Twin Cities locations. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Ladies and gentlemen, MyPillow is excited to announce that they're having the first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. King's only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 30% on their brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of one Mike has worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's size, that whole deal. And they're made right here in the USA. Get the 2025 6-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. The initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And the best-selling standard My Pillow, just $14.98. To take advantage of the first ever mega sale, go to mypillow.com, use promo code TOM, or call 800-516-5146. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship has sailed because right now every order ships absolutely free. This is kind of morose.
Comfortably numb. It was comfortable. What's bad about that?
It's not morose. It's comfortable.
That's right. We like
what time? Teague's supposed to come on about 5 minutes, something
in
like
about
that.
2 minutes.
2 minutes,
I
no,
believe.
exactly.
Did you see the latest about Minnesota?
What now?
Projected
no.
to face a nearly $6 billion deficit now.
$6 billion deficit.
After
From what?
pissing away how many billions?
I know.
18 billion. They had an $18 billion surplus
Yes,
when Waltz
they-
was reelected, and then that's just all gone, and now we have a $6 billion deficit.
$24 billion
You gotta wonder. I don't care how DFL you are. You have to wonder if this is a good way to run a state.
No, they do not.
You just gotta
No,
look
it's
at
a
things.
fascism or something.
Now, Andy, I want to ask you, people of your generation, because your generation now runs the country, basically. I just don't understand. Both of these parties are getting away with murder. They are stealing. Like I said, I don't even remember who the person was they talked about. They make $280,000 a year from I think they're a representative or a senator or something. $285,000 a year, and the person is worth $67 million. Well, where'd that come from?
Well, they say, oh, it's speaking engagements, or they
Yeah.
wrote a book, or
Yeah.
it's like, how much are you getting, and why?
Yeah, that's the thing is you have to wonder, why are these people getting paid $1 million to go speak at some
Exactly.
college somewhere?
Yeah,
And
it's
how
all-
can a college afford this? And what is in it for them to pay $1 million
It's all
for
money
some
laundering.
senator to come speak? It's obviously corruption.
I have a question for you. Is it
Also-
All-Star Wrestling also?
The average age of Congress is 58, so no, my generation is not running the country quite yet.
Well, not quite yet.
But
That's
remember,
true.
it's every year it gets older and older in Congress.
I don't understand how people can just sit there and everybody's wringing their hands because they can't get a job. Businesses are closing down. Like, how many people are unemployed at this point? Millions and millions of people unemployed. And our politicians on both sides are just sitting there raking in the cash like there's no tomorrow, and nobody knows where it comes from.
Yep.
Why do we put up with this, is what I'd like to know.
Because we have a
Well, what are you going to do?
horribly
about it?
divided country, and half of America really loves all this.
Well, what are we going to do, Andy? What I have to do and what you have to do every tax day is report our entire income and where it came from. You do know that the IRS has to know where your money came from.
That's true.
yeah, well, that's
in
what-
fact, they actually have a form online that
That's
you can
correct.
fill out to
Yep.
you can declare money gotten from illegal gains like drug deals and stuff,
Right.
and they are legally not allowed to come after you for it if that's how they find out about it.
That's
They
correct.
just want to get their money. So if you make $1 million
Yep.
on drugs, as long as you declare it, the IRS is going to be like, sure.
I just don't understand how we're allowing these people to just rake our money away from us by the hundreds of millions and billions of dollars, and you know what it is? Again, they do such a great job of all-star wrestling. Oh, I'm on that guy's side. Well, you're on that other guy's side. Well, then I hate you. It's like they're playing us like a piano, for Christ's sake.
Like a damn fiddle. We have a quick, fun graph to look at before Teague comes on.
Okay.
This
A
is
graph.
the percentage of Congress over the age of 70 by year. So,
Since
yeah,
1980, it's kind
Well,
of
like I
shot up
said,
just a little bit.
it's not millennials in charge.
Well, they've been in there since some of them since like the 1960s.
Yeah, no, even before that.
I mean, unbelievable.
All right, we have Teague with us.
Teague, we're blaming everything on you. It's all your fault.
No, we're not.
Totally
Promise
fine.
we
Yeah,
won't
I'll take the
do
blame. That's
that.
cool.
Tiege Dooley-Panko is a host, writer, and stand-up comedian, former Laker girl. Oh, Laker girl from Chicago.
Yeah.
Driven by her passion for personal growth and the fact that she couldn't stop stalking her exes on. Okay, I won't even read that part. I'm leaving that up to
That'll
you.
happen.
So, T, what's the latest?
Yeah, the latest. I wrote a book. I created a program called the Social Media Detox. So it's basically like a 14-day guided social media detox, and the whole thing is just like get you off of your phone and back into the real world. So that's the whole goal
Love that.
behind it.
Teague, I'll be honest with you. I post 1, maybe 2 times a day max. Most days it's
Really?
only 1. Some days it's none. I stay in touch with friends and all the rest of it, or if, I got a joke to tell somebody or something. But I don't just hop on social media to just blah blah blah. I have no time for that.
Well, it's just
Well,
it's
lucky
sad.
you.
Yeah.
It's sad. I mean, we go down to the beach where there's a pool and stuff, and there will be the whole entire family is not engaged at all. They're all face in devices. The little children they're not swimming. They're not in the water. They're not building sandcastles. They're watching a movie.
It's so crazy. And we talk a lot about kids having a problem with social media and their devices. And then I think the conversation we still haven't really started to have is that parents are also, on those devices a lot too. And everybody's using it as a coping mechanism in a stressful situation. And it's a snowball effect for sure. So yeah, it is definitely changing our day to day.
I mean, it's changed the landscape of parenting in so
No
many
question.
ways. I understand completely. Like, I think Andy has 2 little kids. I think it was you, or maybe it was Alex. I don't remember. But somebody was like, my kid is not going to sit at the dinner table and watch a device. There's no way that's going to happen. It's like, that's the only way to
it is.
survive a dinner
I know.
with children.
Sometimes we try not to, but sometimes it's like, we just want to eat and not have to get up every literally 30 seconds to go grab him and bring him back to the table or chase him around. Well, you remember we did the Brandt family reunion thing. The whole time I basically didn't even eat with the rest of the people. I was just chasing him around the restaurant the entire time.
Right.
Yeah, so it is easier to just, stick their nose
Sometimes,
in
yeah.
the screen.
If you need to,
Totally.
it's helpful.
No, absolutely. And it is a device that you can use in that way. But it's just, it's just compartmentalizing that use. And I talked to a lot of people when I was writing this book. I talked to a lot of teachers and principals and people that work with kids and devices. And they suggested like trying to have those like times, or like some people even went as extreme as to have like device-free trips. So like going on a trip with your family and your kids and saying, everybody, no one's going to have a device on this trip. Not the parents, we're going to put them away. We're going to go on this thing. And then it doesn't feel as much pressure, after dinner to everybody go to their phone. It's like, there's no phone to go to. So you're hanging out here, you're playing games.
Good.
So that's like one thing that people are starting to kind of do and try to implement, but it's not easy, obviously. It's a weird landscape that we're in and trying to all navigate together. So yeah.
Because people feel really disconnected from their devices if they're off of them for how long?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's difficult. There are ways to try and mitigate it and try to make it a little bit easier on yourself. I mean, one of the things I talk about in the book is phone proximity. And the idea is like the idea of having your phone out of your sight line really does a lot for your mental health, like provides a lot of mental clarity, helps you focus, just having it out of your sight line. Because there are studies and research that suggest even having it like around and open, it tricks your brain into subconsciously thinking about it. So there's like different things you can do, or phone-free zones. A lot of people are doing the phone-free zone thing where, you know, on their kitchen table, they don't ever have a phone, or on their island, they don't ever have a phone. So there's different tricks and ways to start to mitigate it, but it's not easy.
No, not at all. So I'm trying to look back on when did social media really kick into high? When did it start, and when did it get big?
Well, we know, Facebook was one of the first ones that really exploded for
right.
my group of people. But before that, there was MySpace, and AIM was another. It wasn't exactly social media. It wasn't social media yet, but we were starting that like engaging and having, feeling a sense of community without any actual physical interaction with people. So that's, I think, where it started. And then obviously it's just snowballed over the years and gotten so... we've in a lot of ways replaced it with real relationships, because in a way you feel like, oh, like I see my friend, I know that she has a baby now, I know that she has, she was married, like I feel like I know these people, but I haven't seen them in 10 years. And so it's this false sense of community, this false sense of having a relationship with someone. So it makes it really tricky, but there's obviously there's a lot of benefits to having those actual interactions in person. So I think it's just getting back to finding those opportunities again.
What was that, like 25 years ago when Facebook came out? It was about 20 years ago, wasn't it?
It was a while, yeah.
If not later, earlier. Because, I remember, let's see, I don't know. Was it that? Let's Google it. Why not?
I knew that answer.
2004, so 21 years.
21 years. So it's been around 21 years. The reason I bring that up to you is because when it first started, I was doing a morning show at KQRS in Minneapolis. It's the highest rated morning show in America, as a matter of fact. He said, Tom, you got to get on social media if you want to,
Survive.
you want to survive and keep the people listening to your show, you got to get on there. But at that time, it was a mistake for me to hop on there because I had, like I said, the highest rated morning show in America, and I still drank alcohol at that time. So I would get on my face or whatever it was called.
My face.
And I remember people used to piss me off. I would literally type in, meet me on the corner of 17th and Hennepin. I'm going to kick your ass. That's my first exposure to social media, was threatening to beat people up.
Yeah, so many detoxes needed there.
But it's like people got very bold. I'd never talked to me like that before. And I was at the time, in my mid 50s. So I had never had anyone talk to me like that before. Everybody's a tough guy on social media, of course. That still happens, doesn't it? Everybody's a tough guy on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's a tough guy. Bullies never sleep.
Right.
When I talked to the principal, she was like, when you were growing up, the bullies were at school and you would go home and you were safe. And now when the kids go home, there's no safe. The bully's in their pocket.
Yep.
The bully
That's
is their
terrible.
phone and on their smart device. And so, that's definitely changing a lot of things. But even when you talk about, that pressure to be on social media and have a social media presence tied to your job, think about how many people now that is their reality. It's like even people that are in sales or in real estate or in, different fields that require that social media presence. That never goes away. So one of the things I talk about in the book is like compartmentalizing your use. So like if you work from 9 to 5, you'll be open and generally available on social media during that time. But when you go home, the idea is to like try not to take that home, because if you're on those work profiles, you never stop working. And then, it's really hard to have that work-life balance. So
Yeah, every so often you'll see on like a Reddit or something, people will ask this question. They'll be like, okay, so people who were born, before smartphones or grew up without smartphones, how did people get in contact with you when you were like out of the house? And everyone has to say they didn't.
Yeah.
If I'm out of the house, I'm going grocery shopping or something, there's no way to contact me in 1995 or whatever.
Right.
And kids cannot fathom that because it makes no sense to them. It's like you might as well say, we lived in caveman times you had to do smoke signals with each other because all they've ever known is everyone is connected to everyone else all of the time.
All of the time.
Totally. And there's a lot of urgency, right? Like when you get a text
Yeah.
message, I don't know about you guys, but when I get a text, I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? It's like there's a fire. It's like, it's going to be fine. You don't have to respond. And I don't respond. I generally wait like a few hours to respond anyways because of general anxiety. But when I get that text, I'm like, I have to see what it is immediately. It's like this crazy thing that they've made these devices in a way that makes you so addicted to that dopamine hit, addicted to getting validation, addicted to, the attention. So yeah.
Did you write the book because you had issues with being online all the time?
I did. And Tom previewed it. I did have a hard time. I was stalking a lot of ex-boyfriends. And that was one of my first signals that I had to get off. Okay. But then, there were also, there were so many things. I mean, I also used social media because I was a Laker girl and because I was working as a host. And I just found myself using social media too much for validation and caring way too much about what people thought of me online. And I was planning things in my life based on what it would look like on social media. So I'd be like, okay, do I want to go on this trip? What would that look like on Instagram? Do I want to hang out with that person? I don't know. What would that look like on Instagram? And that's when I realized I need to do some sort of reset here. And I started talking firstly to my therapist. And we started talking about tools and tricks and ways to get off of it. And then I was like, I actually think I could make this into something. And so that's when I started doing more research and putting this together. So
because a lot of people make a ton of money doing
they
just
sure
that,
do.
living their life on Instagram or
some of these people are making $1 million a year just like putting up videos of whatever the hell it is they do.
Really?
Yeah.
It's wild. Yeah. I mean, it's changing a lot. I mean, the influencer culture and the influencer world, they're definitely not making as much as they were before. Probably 5 years ago was like the height of all that stuff. But yes, I mean, it's still a lifestyle for some people, which is in a way admirable. I mean, it looks harder than any 9-to-5 I've ever had. You got to keep people engaged. You got to keep making content. It's a lot. So.
Well, there is an upside to it for me also, in my age group and all the rest of it, that I've met people on social media that were terrified of me because they thought, when you're on the radio, it's you, but it's a big version of you. You know what I mean? So they were like afraid to ever reach out because they thought that I'd, chop their head off or something or whatever. So I've made friends with a lot of people on social media. There is a good side of it to it too.
Well, there can be, sure.
There can be. That's a good way to put it. There can be a good side to it. There's a sad side to it because you find out. The last several people that I've known that have died, I found out on social media. I didn't get the phone call. I found out on social media. So it is a great way to communicate, but we got to have some rules or something, I guess. I don't know what we have to have.
A detox.
Absolutely.
Detox.
Yeah, I mean, detox. We do love a detox. I mean, that's the thing about it. There are really great things about social media, and I mentioned that in the book. It's like there are great things. You can connect with people. There is a sense of community. You are able to be informed about things. I mean, when I was during the LA fires, like that's how I got all my information was just social media and people sharing where the fires were. I mean, that was like, I couldn't imagine what we would have done without that at the time. So yeah, there's definite value in it. And I think it's all about just like finding those things that work for you on social media, finding the things that you love about it, and then finding the things that trigger you and make you feel bad. Like if there's friends that hang out without you and they post about it, mute those people. And like try to find the things that don't work for you and try to mitigate and compartmentalize that use. So that's like, I think what it's all about.
I'm just here for the cat videos.
The cat videos, that's it. That's everything.
The dog videos.
I just got interested in this because I have my phone in my pocket, which we always do now. That's the other thing about it. You go with it wherever you go. But I was just going to hop on. I spend most of my time on Facebook and X, a lot of time on X now, which I don't know if the first Dustin Gray's name popped up, the first thing that popped up on my screen, well, he was a guest on this show last week. And now I follow him on there, Liz Collin, of course. I see a lot of friends on here. Then you got people like Tucker Carlson likes to comment. That's the one thing I have noticed is that news media people really like social media, don't they?
Oh, yeah. I mean, talk about their livelihood. I mean, that's their personality is so tied to their social media presence. They have to.
I suppose
Yeah.
that
I
is
mean, that's
true.
definitely, yeah. It's a whole nother world. I mean, and that's the thing. They're
It
not
is.
really, these companies aren't really paying you to be involved on social media, but you don't get the job unless you're very involved on social media. So
I
it's
think
like
that's
this whole
probably
other
true,
job that you're, this whole other job you're doing kind of on the side for your own, not a side hustle, but to keep yourself relevant. So
Yep.
Can you
Yeah,
stay with us
it's
for
a
about
lot.
10 more minutes? We got to take a quick break, but can you stick around for another segment?
yeah, I'd love
That'd
to.
be great. We'll be right back. More with Tiege Dooley-Panko right after this. For Brad John Bryant, Michael Bryant. Michael, what's up?
Dealing with another case where a person gave a statement to the adjuster because they thought the person was really friendly.
Is that a good idea?
Well, the problem is they know the law when they call you up. And while you're trying to be fair and you're trying to get help, the reality is there are questions you get asked that the way you answer them make a big difference. And people put themselves in trouble. And when they aren't in trouble, they didn't do anything wrong, but suddenly the adjuster's got a statement that can blow up their case completely.
What has caused people to be so untrustworthy, I guess is the best way I could put it? They take advantage.
Well, insurance companies have hired adjusters whose job it is to deal with unrepresented people. So they're supposed to kind of lure them in, call them every day, see how they're doing. And people are like, oh, I'm doing pretty good. Where the reality is they've kind of adjusted to their problem that they've got going on. So it's not that they're completely better, but the way they say it gets to be a problem. And that's why having somebody who can explain your rights, represent you, make sure that you understand the law before you give a statement can make a big difference in your case.
Michael Bryant, Bradshaw and Bryant. Why should your business bank with North American Banking Company? Here's Austin Bartz of Bartz Lawn and Landscape and Bartz Snow Sculptures.
I started banking with North American, I think 3.5 years ago. All the people know me by name. I know them by name. It's fun to come into the bank and actually talk to somebody you know. So I made the switch and I'm very happy. It's the best bank I've ever been at.
So why not bank where I bank? With my friends at North American Banking Company. To learn more about North American Banking Company, go to nabankco.com. That's nabankco.com, or do what I do and stop by any one of their 6 Twin Cities locations. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender. Ladies and gentlemen, Tiege Dooley-Panko is a host, writer, stand-up comedian, former Laker girl from Chicago, driven by her passion for personal growth. Personal growth, I like that. That's good. And the fact that she couldn't stop stalking her exes, she already brought that up. Yes, she couldn't stop stalking her exes. Some potential ideas for coverage, tips and tricks for successfully completing a social media detox, signs someone might need a social media detox, benefits of participating in a social media detox, social media's positive and negative effects on human experience, how social media affects mental health as it pertains to author's experience and why the book was written. I will tell you, honest to God, T, a lot of people really do get not necessarily mentally ill, but it's like they're off the grid weird all of a sudden. Why does it affect them so much?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of research that suggests looking at this stuff all the time and always getting that dopamine hit really increases your stress and anxiety. So even, they say like in the morning, you're supposed to stay off your phone for the first 30 minutes, because if you don't, if you immediately like overwhelm yourself with stressful, either it's news or notifications or emails or things you need to do, I mean, it's really bad for your brain. It like messes up your sleep-wake rhythm and really affects you and the way you go out throughout the day. I mean, it also, it's something people don't talk about a lot, is it seeps into your subconscious as well, especially if you're going to bed, scrolling through the internet. I've done that so many times. I'll be scrolling on the internet, pass out, have a dream, like looking at a social media feed. And that's when, you've got a problem. So
Well,
yeah, it's tough.
I think that, like you were talking about, it's that dopamine hit. It's the same thing with people that are obsessed with watching news programs.
Yeah, it's all
It's like,
basically
it's
the
bad
same
news,
thing.
bad news. This is bad. This is bad. That side's bad. This side's bad. Bad, bad, bad. We're attacking. We're fighting. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, they can never just stop. It's always got to be constant hits.
Yeah, because otherwise they don't.
Yeah.
I guess that's how they get paid, is just to annoy people to death. I don't.
Totally. Well, I mean, even when you talk about dopamine, I mean, if you are exposing yourself to a lot of this stuff, and every time you open your phone and you look at a new notification, you get this dopamine hit, over time, your tolerance goes up a lot. So you're continually looking for more. And then
Oh,
it
good
just
point.
becomes this like snowball. Oh, it's really, really difficult. That's why doing like periodic detoxes or periodic time off your phone. I mean, there's studies that suggest even one day off your phone or off your social media really has huge benefits for your brain. It just lets
Good.
it reset because it's not good for you. I mean, think about our lives 50 years ago, we didn't have this kind of constant, engagement, constant need to A, entertain other people, and B, be entertained. And so I think it's just, it's trying to do those resets is really helpful.
I've been noticing that there are more and more school districts that are trying to implement no phones in the classroom, which I don't understand how that ever got to be a thing.
That's true.
How
Shouldn't
did
be phones in the-
phones
Yeah.
ever get in the classroom in the first place? That's insane. How are they learning if they've got this thing in their lap and they're looking down? The teacher doesn't know what's going on. They're not even bothering to engage.
Yeah, that's a thing that now schools are finally getting a hold on and a handle on. And the principal I spoke to when I was writing this book said that it has made a world of difference because now the kids put their phones in these little pouches that lock them up, or they can put them in their locker or whatever it is. But the cool thing is they're all off of their phones. So they don't feel, it's the same thing kind of when I mentioned that like going out to dinner and no one having their phones, it just takes away that temptation. If other people don't have it, it feels much easier to do it, right?
Yeah.
It feels much easier
Yep.
to say, oh, we can look at each other and have a conversation now instead of one of us reaching for our phone because we're feeling anxious. So yeah, the school thing, I mean, that has really made a big difference, I think, for kids and being able to focus in the classroom. And I hope that schools continue to implement it. These poor schools, we just didn't know. We handed everybody weapons 10 years ago, and we were like,
Yes.
good luck, I
Yep.
guess.
Yep.
I don't know. No parameters on this thing. Good luck.
Yeah.
Now, Kristen
So-
talks about yonder pouches all the time, and are those becoming more common?
Yeah, I mean that's the pouch that you will use in like if there's like a taping or if you go
Yep.
to like a stand-up special or something like that. Yeah, these pouches that lock up your devices for a certain amount of time. That's the thing that some schools are using. So it's either they use those pouches or they'll put them like in designated places in the school so the kids don't have them in the classroom. But yeah, I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't imagine growing up with phones and social media like that. But I especially couldn't imagine being an ADHD person anyways. Having a phone in the classroom with me wouldn't
Right.
work.
I remember when I was a kid, it was Tamagotchi. That was like the thing. And they cracked down on that real hard. Within weeks of Tamagotchi came out, it was like, if we see you with a Tamagotchi, we're going to take that thing away and you're never getting it back.
What is it?
It's like the dumbest thing. It's like a little virtual pet kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
like, it's just like this
They were
digital
sick.
little creature. And every so often it gets hungry. So you have to press the feed button, or like you'll have to clean up its litter box or whatever. And
Yeah,
it's
don't
just
you hatch it from an egg or something too?
Yeah,
So yeah, you give
What?
birth to it. Yeah,
Tamako
it's like your
means
little.
egg in Japanese. That's why it's called that. So you get the egg, and then you hatch it into a creature, and you never know what creature you're going to get, and that's part of the fun. But then it's like they're basically programmed to die in about 2 weeks, no matter what you do. So then you have to get a new egg, and you hatch the new one. It's basically like a fidget spinner, but electronic, because you really don't even do it that much. You'll hear a beep. It's like, oh, the beep means my Tamagotchi's hungry. Press the food button. And then you just ignore it. But every single kid had one, and they were all feeding their Tamagotchis at school, and
Really?
teachers were not happy about that.
Well, I can
Yeah.
understand why they wouldn't be very happy about that. What about Teague? Have you looked at the numbers of people who've died because they're on social media on their phone while driving their car?
Driving, I don't have numbers on, but there are a lot of lawsuits that are coming out about
Yeah.
wrongful death suits, unfortunately, because
Yeah.
people have, suffered from depression and anxiety and
Yep.
either taken their own lives or, in some way been affected by that. So now, I mean, it's hard to hold these social media companies accountable because they, there's some sort of loophole that they've gotten around where they're not actually like liable for what people post online, but obviously their platform is what has, encouraged people to post or engage with people online. So yeah, it's a really slippery slope. I hope that the companies are going to start to have a little bit more accountability. I don't know driving. I will look that up, but that's got to be, it's got to be not a good number, I'm sure.
Catherine and I are driving around a lot in South Florida, and constantly you got people sitting at the light and they're doing this. The light has changed green, and now it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they have no idea the light
I
has
know, and
changed.
if you honk at them, they lose their mind.
Yeah,
I'm like, are they going to road rage because they've been holding up traffic for a whole
Yeah.
light? It's just, yeah.
Yeah. It is crazy. I mean, think about it. That's the dopamine. That's
Yep.
needing dopamine all the time. You know, those are people that are like addicted to that hit and that want that notification. Can't even be in a car for 20 minutes without looking at their phone. So yeah, it's,
How do you
it's
know it's
definitely it
social
shows up
media?
everywhere.
How do you know it's not the Tamagotchi needs feeding?
Oh yeah, still
You know
on
what?
the phone.
That actually feels more pure for it to be the Tamagotchi. I'd actually think
Okay.
that that'd be nicer.
Well, I tell you what, Teague, you got to stay in touch with us and update us on the situation, because we really do need to get away from people on their phones in the movie. Even though people don't go to the movies anymore,
When
don't
they do.
It is against the law. I think in all 50 states. I'm not sure about that, but it's against the law to be holding a phone in your car. You can put it, you can connect it to your
Hands-free.
car, and you can do hands free. But you see them at stoplights; they're sitting there staring at their phone. It's got to stop. There's no question about that. And like you said, the social media detox is a good way to do it. They're so addicted to it that they can't help themselves but be a danger to others. So you've got a very good point,
Right.
Teague, is all I'm saying. Right?
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. I'm really excited about the journey. I'm excited to have these conversations because now people can feel like they're not in this alone and there might be a solution.
So what's the name of the book again?
Yes, it's called The Social Media Detox and it is on Amazon. But there's more information at social-media-detox.net. That's where you can find all the resources.
So can I read it while I'm driving my car?
Yeah, you can.
Oh, that's really
So it's
nice.
fine.
You can do an audio book.
Teague, you'll have to come back very, very soon. We'd love to have you back.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Catherine. I appreciate it.
Nice to
We'll
meet
talk
you.
soon. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.
Tiege Dooley-Panko, ladies and gentlemen, Social Media Detox, the name of the book. Yeah, she's terrific.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Well,
She's
Kristen was right.
Kristen's always right. She got it all dialed in. There's no question about
Like,
that.
you love Teague.
Yeah, well, she was right. We did love Teague, but first of all, it's dangerous. Don't do it. If you're going to a movie theater, movie theaters having enough trouble the way it is, and if you're on 10 people on your phone, it's going to cause people to not ever go to a theater. You're destroying a lot of people's businesses, lives, cars, all the rest of it, because you won't get off your phone.
Well, it's interesting because as we walk a lot around. And
Right.
we take the dog out and we go out to dinner and all stuff. And people have a device, even if they're not looking at a device, they've got something in their ears and they're always listening to something, whether it's music or a podcast or whatever, which, we want you to listen to podcasts.
Right.
But all the time, I mean, I like listening to the birds and just, noticing what's around me. I don't have to be like distracted all of the time. Is it because we live in such a stressful world that people just feel like they have to be? It's almost like putting blinders on a horse. It's like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm going to go out for a walk, but I'm going to listen to something about, whatever it is.
Right.
And I'm going to, or listen to a movie or a book on tape or some sort of music. Just always to be plugged into something. Just
Yep.
almost seems like it's an obsession with our
One
society.
of Ethan's favorite, you talked about looking at birds and stuff. So a few months ago, it might have been before winter like really hit even.
6 months ago. No.
He opened at this point. He opens the front door and then he closes it and runs to us. And he said, I hear fwee-fwoo. I'm like, what the hell is
Wee-foo.
fwee-fwoo? So we go out to the front door and we open it and we listen. He's talking about the fwee-fwoo. And what he was hearing was the chickadee.
Oh.
You know, how they go,
Yeah. The
Yeah, it's-
fwee-foo. They do fwee-foo.
He loves to listen for the fwee-fwoo, and he wants us to play it on our phones. He loves the chickadee sound.
Well, why wouldn't he?
Yep.
All right, we always end our show now with Ethan, as a matter of fact.
Pretty much.
I mean, he does a great job of doing the outro, the intro, whatever you want us to do.
Yes.
Want him to do, excuse me. We get him to do it, and that's wonderful. But Teague was a great guest. Of course, Kristen
was.
Burt, loved talking to her. In any case, we will be with you tomorrow. Have a good day.
Bye.
Every time I hear the same, reminds me how you talking my